We're getting ready to go when Jordan's ready. All righty. Sounds like we're ready to go. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here this morning on our December 10th meeting. I'd like to call our December 10th, 2024 meeting to order at 9:30. We acknowledge Athabasca County is located on First Nations Treaty 6 and Treaty 8 traditional territory. We respect and honor all First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples' connection to these lands, their history, language, and culture. Bring your attention to item 2.1, the approval of the agenda, and note that all items on the agenda have been selected for debate. Are there any additions or deletions? I move to approve. Okay, thank you.
I would like to make an amendment.
Okay, Councillor Hall, your amendment?
I'd like to amend the motion to approve the agenda to include that the words "with the adoption of the agenda to approve the recommended motions for items 5.1, 7.1, 7.3, 8.1, 8.4, and 8.5, and further to delete item 5.4, as it does not include the strategy, the overall strategy as outlined in motion 24.478, and is tabled until those results are in hand. It's therefore out of order for it to even be on the agenda.
Okay, we're going to back up a little bit because there was quite a list that you put through. As we mentioned, all items will be up for debate. So thank you for showing your approval of some of the recommendations that are available. Can you please give your list of what item you felt was out of order to be on the agenda?
The amendment is to approve the recommended motions along with the approval of the agenda for items 5.1, 7.1, 7.3, 8.1, 8.4, and 8.5, and to delete item 5.4.
Now, with regards to those amendments, we will take that to a vote. And I understand that as we mentioned originally, that all items have been selected for debate. Therefore, Councillor Hall would prefer to amend the agenda to approve the recommended motions for 5.1, 7.1, 7.3, 8.1, 8.4, 8.5, and to delete 5.4. So I think we will split that. And we'll have that conversation. Go ahead, Councillor Cromwell.
Thank you very much. I believe the only part of that motion that is relevant right now would be the motion to delete 5.4, as the other items have yet to come up for discussion.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to weigh in here? All right.
Could we just read through the list one more time there?
I'm sorry,
Could you read through that amendment list one more time, please?
Sure. Councillor Hall would like to amend the agenda to accept the recommendations on 5.1, 7.1, 7.3, 8.1, 8.4, and 8.5. In further, delete 5.4 for Hamlet signage. As mentioned, we did say that all items would be up for debate, so we will go ahead with the amendment as a vote would be required. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, Madam Reeve, I'm still confused how that motion is relevant. How can we discuss an item and then go right to the ending right now? I think that motion is out of order. And I stand by the fact the only part of that motion that should be considered is the request to delete 5.4 from the agenda. That's what we're talking about. We're not talking about approving motions right now. We're talking about adding or deleting from the agenda. Therefore, only the part to delete 5.4 is relevant and should be considered.
Thank you for that, and I will accept your point of order on that and rule the same. I agree that we have already mentioned that those items will be selected for debate. Therefore, we will move to 5.4, Hamlet signage. For that item as a consideration to be deleted. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor to delete 5.4?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm sorry, Camille Wallach or Counselor Wallach, was that? Aye. So we have 5. And those opposed? 3. Motion carries to delete item 5.4.
I would like to appeal the decision of the chair on the point of order ruling.
Thank you. I believe we've moved on, but if you would like to appeal that,
This is a simple process we've used successfully for years to allow council to spend more time on items that require more discussion and things that are really straightforward and procedural in nature. It gives us the ability to pass them and move on, freeing up time for the critical issues that are in front of us. And I would note, this is called a council meeting, not the Reeves meeting. And a discussion like this and a major change like this should occur after a discussion of the entire council, not based on the declaration of one member of the council.
and thank you for that. And I would definitely invite you to bring forward an RFD if you would like to have that further discussion. As it was discussed, and we have had that conversation with regards to the consent agenda that you seem to be referring to, that there was never a motion on the floor to add that particular document, and it has been creating a few issues as the best practices are not being followed. Therefore, as mentioned, and as we have gone through the procedural bylaw and mentioned all items on the agenda have been selected for debate, it's as far as I'm concerned, that that pretty much covers the procedural bylaw. Councillor Chamzik.
I would like to discuss 8.4.
Sorry, there was an appeal, and the chair should give concise reasons for the ruling, and without debate, the members shall vote to decide the question.
Yes, and I think I just believe I gave those reasons, the best practices.
So, sorry, you
Required.
missed the part about the vote, Reeve?
Yes. As I mentioned, I gave my reasons for your appeal and stand by that we are following the procedure bylaw as it is written. Is there any further discussion?
It's without debate, Madam Chair.
Yes. And as you mentioned, you felt that everyone should weigh in. So
I
therefore.
did not mention that. For this moment, that is not part of the bylaw on the appeal. I said it a future time.
As this is not a productive conversation to move us forward, once again, we mentioned that all items have been selected for debate.
Would you
And-
please call the vote on the ruling of the chair?
On the appeal, we will go ahead and vote. All those in favor to uphold the fact that we are going to discuss all items have been selected for debate. All those in favor for to select all items for debate.
Sorry, point of order, Madam Chair. I believe the correct motion would be all those in favor to support the appeal as put by the member on the floor.
Thank you.
No, that's incorrect. The Reeve has it. Shall the decision of the chair be upheld?
I'm going to call a recess at this point until we can have a procedural conversation and understand that what we're doing is accurate. We're in recess, please. Thank you. Thank you so much, folks, for giving us that moment to try and sort through what the procedurals are. And from my understanding, we do, as we mentioned, have appeal on the floor. The appeal of the chair as 17.3, if a decision is appealed, the chair shall give concise reasons for his or her ruling, and the members without debate shall decide the question, and the ruling of the members shall be final. From my understanding, the appeal was for the point of order that we have an amendment to 5.1, 7.1, 7.3, 8.1, 8.4, 8.5 be adopted as per recommended. So on this appeal, all those in favor of the amendment request, please vote.
I'm sorry,
Can you,
I'm unclear about the question, like what, I just want to understand, are we voting on the amendment or are we voting on the ruling of the chair?
We're voting on the appeal.
So is the
Appeal
question
of the
to
point of
sustain
order,
the decision of the chair?
correct.
Please
Thank you.
reread that one more time. I also do not understand your wording.
All right, so the appeal, from my understanding, was the point of order that the chair has decided all, I mentioned, all items on the agenda have been selected for debate. That was the point of order. So the chair gave the reasons that all items on the agenda have been selected for debate as per 9.8 of our bylaw. That appeal was given, therefore there is no debate. So the appeal, from my understanding, is that the person who put the appeal in did not agree with the chair in saying that all items on the agenda have been selected for debate. So the appeal for that point of order is, if I'm understanding it correctly, CAO, if I may, is to either agree that the chair has said all items of the agenda have been selected for debate and we go forward with that. Or if you vote in the negative, you disagree with the chair. Is that accurate?
So we're voting to uphold the decision of the chair or not.
Correct.
Thank you.
So in this vote, we are voting to, at this point, to uphold the decision of the chair. All those in favor to uphold the decision of the chair. And that's 4. And all those opposed.
nay,
Nay.
Nay.
1, 2, 3, 4. Therefore, 4, that is lost. So we will go forward to the next item, which was a motion on the floor to approve the agenda. We had an amendment. The amendment was to delete 5.4. So we will, as Councillor Chamzik had requested, to approve the agenda, accept the agenda with that amendment deleting 5.4. Is everyone on board? All those in favor?
Aye.
aye,
Just for clarification, was the decision of the chair not just defeated?
The decision of the chair, pardon me, is
Was
for-
not upheld, so it was defeated. Correct?
Yeah.
So the point was not well taken.
right.
Then doesn't the full amendment get read?
Then if we would like to vote on an amendment, I guess, are we back to that, voting on the amendment of 5.1 and
Madam Chair, I'll give you my recollection. And I could be wrong and Counselor Hall can correct me. I believe he made a motion to add back on or to deal with 5.1 and a number of different items, 7.1, 7.2 by way of consent. And which would be an amendment to the motion from Counselor Chamzik to adopt the agenda. I believe that's an amendment to that. Is that correct, Counselor Hall?
Yes, and then that was the amendment, and then we've split that into 2 portions. We voted on half of it. We haven't voted on the amendment to adopt those 6 items, to adopt the recommended motions as presented with the approval of the agenda.
Correct. So there's an amendment to the motion to adopt the agenda, which was made by Counselor Hall, and that's to deal with those numbered items basically as consent agenda. That's my recollection
So we're now voting on that amendment.
on the amendment by Counselor Hall.
My goodness.
I'm sorry, I'm still confused though. As we've already said, we want to discuss all items of the agenda. Now we're being railroaded by one person who wishes to not give us the opportunity to speak.
The point of order was appealed.
I would like to discuss 8.4.
Okay, so what we have is an amendment on the floor that we have to vote on. So that will determine whether or not we're able to discuss 8.4. So on the amendment, as given by Counselor Hall, that 5.1, 7.1, 7.3, 8.1, 8.4, and 8.5 be as the passed as per recommended motion, as the recommendation on the report. Is that accurate, Counselor Hall?
That's the motion that I've read out a number of times.
All right, is there any discussion?
I would like to request that we split the question and vote on 8.4 separately, please.
Thank you. Is there any other discussions or requests? All right, so on the amendment to accept the recommendation on the reports for 5.1, 7.1, 7.3, 8.1, and 8.5. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Trying to get aye, sorry.
So that is 4. All those opposed? 4. Therefore, that motion is defeated. So that, as far as I understand, puts those items back on the agenda. Is that accurate and everyone in the same place? The amendment failed. Correct? Just want to confirm before we move on to the next item. On the amendment to have 8.4 added as the recommendation on the report. All those in favor? All those opposed?
Nay.
Nay,
Nay.
Nay.
That motion is defeated. Therefore, we will be discussing 8.4. Is that accurate and everyone is
what
on
was
the
the
same
count?
page? 4 and 4?
So then we won't be discussing it because we just voted to,
Pardon me, the motion was, pardon me.
I'm
Well, it is the
confused.
community events calendar, therefore we will discuss it at another day. Pardon me for that. I apologize, Councillor Chancellor. Now, on the motion to adopt the agenda as amended, which would include 8.4 being removed to discuss, it was automatically recommended as per recommendation. All those in favor? It's been already recommended as per according to the report, 8.4. Correct?
I thought the only amendment that we actually voted to keep was the deletion of item 5.4, not 8.4.
No, it was 5.4 and 8.4 was.
5.4 was already voted on and deleted. Okay. Can we get through this so we can invite our delegates in? All those in favor to adopt the agenda as amended?
Aye.
How many did we get from Zoom? I couldn't hear.
Aye.
So that's 8 and 0.
Nay,
Thank you. I did not hear the opposed.
you didn't call for the
Call for it.
opposed.
Well, I didn't hear you say nay. I think we're going to now move on.
I didn't vote. You haven't called for opposed.
Well, I'm really sorry when we're not able to hear when you say A or
We-
put up a hand. So
We'd say
waiting
nay
for
when
that.
you call, if we're voting opposed, I will say nay. I won't say A if I'm voting opposed. You need to call for opposed.
All those in favor, we'll start again and we will hold our hands up for all those in favor of adopting the agenda as amended. All those in favor, hold your hand up. 1,
Aye.
2, 3, 4, 5. Who said the aye? Because I cannot
Aye.
see. So that would be Counselor Wallach. So that's 6, correct? All those opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Thank you. 6 and 2.
Thank you for calling for our vote.
We will now move over onto our agenda. Item 4.1, we have a delegation. If we would please invite those people in, that would be great. Thank you. Right. Good morning, everyone. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here. We're here to hear your report with regards to what's been happening in your divisions. We'll start with introductions if we can, and we'll start with Councillor Cromwell, please.
Good morning, welcome. Thank you for being here today.
Good morning, Joe Gerlach.
Morning, Rob Mins, Division 8, Southeast Lake Conlon area.
Morning, Ashton Anderson, Castle Boyle area.
Ellie Chadwick, Division 7, Grasshopper, Crosspeeda area.
And joining us in Zoom, we have Councillor Hall and Councillor Kapitaniak. We seem to have lost Councillor Wallach. And I'm Reeve Holland and I'm Councillor for Division 5. If you'd like to go ahead and introduce yourselves and then we'll begin.
Sergeant Lee Simpkins, Unit Commander for Boyle Athabasca Traffic.
Sergeant Gavin Murgy, Operations NCO at Athabasca Detachment.
Thank you so much. And of course, we have CAO Beck and we have Tammy Floyd, who is our recording secretary, and Jordan Schenkelberg, who is with our communications. Please take the floor.
I'll start off. For the Athabasca Detachment, we've had in the second quarter, we had a pretty good quarter so far. The two priorities that we were focusing on were the break and enters throughout the whole Athabasca area, as well as habitual offenders. That seems to be where we've had most of our success is dealing with the repeat offenders over and over again. As far as the break and enters go, we had 72 incidents. So when I'm talking about this again, just to remind everybody, the Athabasca does cover the MD of Opportunity, Calling Lake, Athabasca Town, and then the county as well. So we have quite a large area. So we had 72 incidences in the second quarter. This does put us ahead of where and our targets were. We're trying to get it down to 150 incidents for the year. I'd like to see 0. Unfortunately, we still are going to get a few of them. So we are ahead on that. As far as the intelligence led policing and habitual offender, we are at approximately 77.36% compliance rate, which is up from last time. These guys are either trying to be good, or we're actually catching them before they commit further crimes on the stuff, breaching their conditional sentence orders, things like that. So we've had some success on our two priorities for that quarter. On the topic of community involvement, we were doing the coffee with a cop in town here. Having one of the corporals was out meeting with the public, getting feedback from the public on how we were doing, what we need to focus on, just getting that connection with the community. So that was happening quite a bit during the summertime there. As well as we have, I'm sure most of you are familiar with now, David, he's working with the rugby team. Yeah, they've been quite active in the community as well, doing all kinds of different events and stuff. And they've had some pretty good success with that. We also had members at the Terry Fox Run running in the uniform with the kids. And one of my most junior member did a party program. Party program is dealing with impaired driving. They brought in MAD to talk at the high school, so it does affect the county side of things as well. Kids going to high school there. Great presentation, lots of good feedback from that. Of note for files over this past few months, we had, unfortunately, we had that youth pass away in that car crash just west of town here on the highway. I can't get into details of it because it is still under investigation. We reopened the Lorraine Popovich search. We had some information that we followed up on. I brought the search team in again to search that property. We brought in quite extensive resources again to search. We unfortunately still didn't find her in that area there. So the file does remain open, and it's something we will probably hit up again this springtime here once the snow is gone. We during this time period also we had an individual south of town in the county who was having a hard time, and we ended up bringing in our ERT team, our SWAT, our ERT team, our negotiators, a lot of different resources from Boyle, from Westlock, from Edmonton, all to help address that situation. There's firearms involved, and it was a pretty tense situation, but it was resolved very, very successfully. And since then I've had an opportunity to talk to this individual, and it sounds like they're doing well. As part of that letter that came out with this package here, they talk about body worn cameras in there. We're not getting ours in Athabasca. We're scheduled for April. We'll see if we'll get them around that time there. I'm looking forward to having them. It's a great piece of kit, a good tool that we'll be able to use to help further investigations and or deal with concerns from the public. So there was in July to September, there was 33% decrease in total offenses for 2024 compared to 2023. That dropped 419 to 279 incidents. That's a very good improvement when we're seeing that kind of drop in here. Persons crimes, we saw a decrease of 26%. Property crime, 39%. Drug offenses, we went from 2 to 3 cases. Total federal acts, 29% decrease. And that, again, these numbers, when I'm saying this, we went from 14 to 10. So it's not huge numbers for this area here. Collisions always seem to be an issue. I mean, we have the lots of the deer strikes and things like that. We were actually in this time period, we dropped 32%. We went from 107 incidents as opposed to 73 incidents. And I won't talk too much about traffic offenses because I'll let my partner here talk about that. But their persons crimes increased. Yeah, overall persons crimes increased by 9%. From 2022 to versus 2023, and property crime had a slight decrease of 2%. So we're actually seeing a lot of good things coming out of the work that's being done in the area here. A lot of good. I think we contribute to the amount of time we spend dealing with habitual offenders, the time we spend in the community dealing with making connections with people. We've seen a lot of good things come of it. So with that, I won't go through all the numbers on that page unless anybody has any specific questions about this chart that we sent, but that's my part of the presentation.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Does anybody have any questions, or should we wait till the very end? We'll wait till the very end. All right, thank you. Please go ahead.
Thanks for the invite. I just have to say that Sergeant Preparesy from Boyle, he got called to a file about 20 minutes before I arrived here, so he won't be showing up today, so he sends his apologies. Just a snapshot of the statistics that we have for the last 3 months. Just one note there, we did a huge road check in the county on Saturday night because it was National Impaired Driving Day across Canada, and even I had to work. And just happy to say that we screened over 90 drivers at that road check. And we only received 4 digital readings indicating there was alcohol in the driver's body. However, they were below the threshold of any sanction. Other than that, it was complete zeros across the board. So accolades to the drivers out there that we didn't end up with any stats that night. So that's good on the community's part and the road safety initiatives that we've been promoting. So yeah, so so that said, in the last 3 months, we've only gotten one criminal impaired driver. We've had 5 IRS cautions or 24 hours combined. One other criminal code file. The alcohol cannabis stuff's a little bit on the rise here. We've got 10 incidents of that. So that's anything from unpackaged cannabis to liquor within reach. I believe there was some illegal cigarettes in there as well. I was finding a lot of those on the roads. 46 seatbelt tickets within that 3 months. We wrote 18 distracted driving, so cell phone tickets, 191 speeding tickets, and 61 other tickets. So that could be stop signs or other offenses, prohibit driving or driving while unauthorized. We executed 9 warrants. So people that had warrants for their arrest. One of my fellows did a street check on one person. And we did a total of 23 operations. So that would be either seatbelt cell phone operations or impaired driving road checks. So on average, we're probably about 8 of those a month. In that time frame, we conducted 550 mandatory alcohol screenings. So we screened 550 drivers on the road. And that's between the 3 of us, but quite frankly, it's more like maybe 1.5 of us on the road at the time because I'm mostly in the office. We attended 2 collisions and we assisted the detachments, so Athabasca Boyle 47 times. And my guys were nice and they wrote 75 warnings. It's pretty much all I have.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I know you're very busy. Thank you. And is that, are you presenting as well or?
No, I'll just introduce myself. This is my first day in Athabasca. A lot of you might remember me from Boyle, where I was the corporal over there. So I just recently got promoted to Athabasca, and which is nice because I don't have to move. I live halfway between Boyle and Athabasca, and my wife works in Athabasca. Kids go to daycare here, so I'm really looking forward to my no-cost transfer and starting here in Athabasca. So my role as the operations NCO, I'll be looking after the corporals in Athabasca and the files, managing high-risk files. And then if any major unfolding event involving firearms or things like that, I'll have a look after too. So my background is I was in Fort McMurray for 7 years. I was part of a crime reduction unit there with we did mostly overt enforcement on prolific offenders, warrant management, things like that. So I bring that to the table here. And then I spent 5 years on the emergency response team in Edmonton as a sniper there, and then transferred to Boyle for the last 3 years. And now here I am in Athabasca with the intent to stay. So really looking forward to it.
Fantastic. Thank you. Welcome. That's awesome. Nice to hear. All right. Does anybody have any questions, comments? Councillor Cromwell.
No, just thank you all very much for what you do. Staff, good luck with your new sergeant. I know he's been great for our community out in the Wandering River area, and I know he's done great work with Boyle Detachment, so I'm sure you're going to be very happy with him. And sorry that we lose him from my part of the county, but congratulations to the rest that gained Sergeant Berkey. So thank you all very much.
Councillor Anderson.
Thank you. Sergeant Simpkins mentioned charges for alcohol within reach, and being that it's the holiday season and there's a lot of people purchasing such items and maybe transporting them home or to a party or whatnot. Could we maybe hear a reminder on what the recommended ways to transport such items are in your vehicle? You know, not on the passenger seat.
Put it in the trunk. This, it can't be in the reach of the driver or pretty much any occupant in there. So, you know, if you have an SUV, obviously in the back. I have a little mini truck. It's a right-hand drive, so I had to put a toolbox in the back so I can put, if I go to the liquor store, I can put my liquor in the back, because in the mini truck I can touch the window on this side. So it can't be in the cab with me either. So yeah, put it in the back. I guess, make sure it's not in reach, otherwise it'll be a ticket.
Thank you. Anything further? Nope. Anybody else? Yeah, go ahead, Councillor Gerlach.
It's actually quite impressive when you said you had the check stop and you had 90 people that you checked out and was it on just a weekday or toward a weekend or because
It was this past Saturday, December 7th was National Impaired Driving Day across Canada. So every division from British Columbia to Prince Edward Island was doing road checks on the 7th of December.
that's a big improvement, isn't it?
Yeah, and I talked to our partners in like Westlock and St. Paul, and they pretty much struck out as well.
Excellent. Good, thanks.
There was a stat from I think south of Edmonton where a whole bunch of sheriffs and everybody all got together and they screened over, I think it was 3,500 drivers, and they ended up with 4 sanctions. So that's it's pretty good on the driver's side of things anyway.
Awesome. Anybody on Zoom wishing to weigh in? Doesn't look like we have any hands up there. And I think, is that everybody? Well, again, thank you so much for all that you do and for being here today. I know your schedules are extremely busy and the holiday season makes it even busier. So we certainly appreciate everything you're doing out there for us and for our communities, and keep up the excellent work because we know you're doing very well out there. Thank you so much. Yep, I think we're done. All right, thank you. Happy holidays to you all and stay safe.
Christmas, eh? Yeah.
Our other delegate is due for 10:30, correct? Okay. I think we just need a couple of minutes here or nope, we'll go on. So maybe we can actually get through to 3.1 before our delegate arrives. 3.1 is the page 5 and 6 of your agenda, and it is the approval of the minutes, the special county council meeting, November 19th, 2024. Is there any discussion? Counselor?
I understand the practicality of declaring a recess once we've lost quorum. But is that something we can actually do, or like, should it be recorded in the minutes? Is it an actual declaration of a recess? Or is it just kind of pausing and trying to reconnect with people if possible?
I'll defer to the CAO for answer to that question.
Could you please clarify the question? I'm not 100% sure of what your question is.
It says that Reeve Holland declared a brief recess at 1:32 PM and then the meeting was adjourned due to not having quorum. And I'm just wondering if that should be in the minutes or if there was actually a formal recess, because without quorum, you can't really declare a recess, so.
I don't think you need a motion to declare a recess, if I'm not mistaken. And yes, we declared a recess to see if we could bring people back. If we wondered if it was on our end, if it was technical difficulty, but it was not. So we determined that. And is it accurate? We do not need a motion for a recess, Chair, pardon me, CO?
Correct. I believe it's worded exactly as it occurred.
Okay, thank you. Just wanted to check, sorry.
Nope, thank you. Is there anyone else who have anything that they'd like to discuss on before we go to a motion? Is there a motion? Thank you. Councillor Cromwell would like to accept the special county council meeting November 19, 2024 minutes as presented. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, it looks like that's an aye, so it looks like there's no opposed, and that would be 8-0. 3.2, regular county council meeting, November 28, 2024, approval of the minutes. Is there a motion? Councillor Mins, as accepted, as presented, accept as presented. Is there any discussion?
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Hall?
I'd like to propose that after the approval of the agenda, the words, quote, "so members can get printout of agenda, issues with emails not being received" are deleted. They're unnecessary in the minutes and in fact aren't true. The issue was some individuals were working from an agenda that was not properly circulated, it didn't have to do with the minutes, and I think it's just better to leave it as a recess, showing a start and an end time and call it there. So I'd propose those words be deleted.
Are you proposing to delete the words issues with emails not being received?
Beginning with "so members can get," like right from there. It should just say declared a recess at 9:32, reconvened at 9:45.
So the request, and if so, I just have it straight because you're difficult to hear. So members can get printout of agenda. Issues with emails not being received, you would like deleted.
Correct.
All right. Does anybody else have anything further that they would like to? Okay. Now
And if there isn't a motion to approve the minutes as amended, I would make that motion.
that motion was already there, so this would be an amendment to the motion. So we will vote on the amendment.
We don't
To-
typically,
Pardon me?
we don't typically vote on corrections to the minutes. We talk about them, and if there's no objections to them, we move on with an amended version.
I believe you asked for an amendment to the minutes to have items removed.
I
in the
asked for a
wording.
correction to the minutes. Yes, that's correct.
That would be an amendment, as you mentioned, and the motion would have to include the words amended as amended. So that is an amendment. So we will vote on that amendment to delete those words. All those in favor to delete from the minutes the words "so members can get printout of agenda, issues with emails not being received." All those in favor?
Aye.
That is 3. All those opposed? And that is 5. That amendment has failed. On the motion,
Then
ex-
could we record in the minutes, Madam Chair, that a further amendment that the agenda was not properly circulated?
you would like a further amendment?
Well, I think we should record the truth of what happened. The issue at that moment was that not all of council had received the agenda that the table was working from. So the agenda that the meeting was opened with was not the agenda that was circulated 72 hours in advance.
So you would like a second amendment?
Well, I would like us to record the truth. I'm not sure how you want to handle it.
Well, you're asking for the minutes to be amended as they are written. The wording that you would like to add, I'm not sure exactly how that was stated. So if you'd like to state that again, please.
Maybe we could just have administration double check the recording of the meeting and
Well, when we are going to vote on an amendment, it should be absolutely stated. So if you could please state that, or we'll just move to go with the initial.
then we should record that the issue was the Reeve was working from an agenda that was not properly circulated to council.
So the amendment is add the words to record on the minutes. The issue was the agenda was not properly circulated. Is that accurate? As I'm just trying to write this down as quick as I can.
Sure.
All right. On the amendment to add the words, and this will be the final amendment, we're only allowed 2. To record the issue, to record on the minutes the issue that the agenda was not properly circulated. All those in favor to add those words on this amendment?
Aye.
That would be 3. All
Aye.
those opposed? That would be 5. The amendment has failed. So the original motion was to accept the regular county council meeting as presented. And that was yours, Councillor Mins? All those in favor? 5. All those opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
That would be 3. Motion carries. is our next delegate. We've got a few more minutes. I'm not sure if we can go through.
I would recommend a
A
4-minute
recess?
recess, Madam
Sure.
Reed.
Let's do that. Yeah, we'll go ahead and do a recess until our delegation is ready. Good morning. Thank you for being here today. We are at 4.2 of our agenda, which is a Trident Pumps delegation presentation. I think we will start here with introductions, if we may.
Good morning. Thank you for being here, my friend Gary Cromwell, Division 6, far north up and including Wandering River.
Excellent. Good morning, Joe Gerlach from the deep south, Rochester, Fayetteville area. Please.
Morning, Rob Mintz, Division 8, Baptiste Lake Island Lake area.
My world now.
Your world now.
Good morning, Ashton Anderson. I reside in Division 3, which is the Boyle Caslin area.
Thank you.
Kelly Chamsick, Division 7, Grassland, Crosspeter, Atmore areas.
Thank you. I'm Reeve Holland and Counselor for Division 5, which is east of Athabasca. And I'm just trying to figure out if we do have some members on Zoom. Just checking out our screen here and we'll give them an opportunity. Pardon? Okay, so we do have two counselors who are on Zoom. We can't see them, but it is Counselor Hall and he is from Division 4 and Counselor Kapitanic, who's from Division 2 that's also attending. And we have CAO Beck. We have our recording secretary, Tammy Plord, and we have our communications. Is it director or manager? Coordinator. Communications coordinator, Jordan Schenkelberg with us here today.
Thank you very much.
And if you would like to go ahead, just a couple of items, if you could please keep your presentation within 15 minutes. If you do need more time, we'll do a consensus to see if that's something that council will be able to allow. And please go ahead.
Perfect, thank you. I've given you handouts. It's not the same as the presentation that we're providing, so I'm going to refer to those handouts and they should be in order, but again, thank you for allowing me to be here today. It's very important that I'm in this room. Ladies and gentlemen of the council, today we're going to talk about being ready to protect our lands, our infrastructure, and I'm here to show you some examples of what the Trident can do to help with critical readiness. 8 or 9 years ago, when I was the owner of Trident Communications, Ron Jackson came into my office with this unique request. He asked for a cellular enhancement for a gravel pit. Thought it was odd. So we went and checked it out, and what he required was he had to get a rental pump to get the water out of the pit. But he needed a security group and a security shack just to protect that pump, just to keep that pump there while the operator was going. So we calculated I tried to do a guesstimate about $2,000 a day just to pump out that one pit for all that rental equipment that is required. And recently I had a look at your 2025 budget and I was amazed at the level of detail you guys tried to achieve when you're looking for funding. And the reason why I bring up the Ron Jackson story, how do you foresee costs like that when you were never ever planning on pumping out that gravel pit in the first place? Hi, my name is Rick Box. I'm with Trident Pump Inc. Some of you may know me as the current sitting president of the Athabascan District Chamber of Commerce. I'm also the vice president of the Road to Hope, but today I'm sitting here in front of you as a local business owner, and as of last month, I'm in Rob's area. I've moved back to the county where I started when I first moved to town. My goal here today is to show you what the Trident solution to better understand how to feel ready in situations like the Union Fire and other events that you may or may not have planned for. In this first handout that you have there, it's an info note based on what happened up on 881. So we got a call from Alberta Transportation. The road was flooding, their hot seat wasn't keeping up with the water. There's a timeline that's based there on the side. I won't go through it, but you can see how fast we were able to get there and start flowing water. On the left, you can see an example of it, a typical pump of the same power and throughput. It's large. It damaged the road. It closed the road. There's lots of large infrastructure that takes to get that piece of equipment there. It has to be perfectly leveled. It has to be in an area that it can be placed with the equipment that's provided. And then below it, you can see the Trident. We're sitting at about a 30-degree angle, and basically didn't even have to hook a discharge hose to it. We just shot it over the bank and into the free-flowing water. So. And at the bottom, you can actually see the water that we were able to move in the time frame that we were there. If the Trident solution was used in a Ron Jackson situation, this pumping asset could have returned every night with the operator. removing all those extra costs associated with dewatering of that one pit and then ensuring that all the high valued assets return to a safe location each and every night. As tough as it is to budget for, sometimes it's also very difficult to deal with safety. And this next info note is based on a meteor shower that we had just north of Thorhild. Some of the key takeaways on this is we got called about 3 days after it started. The water that they required for the water tenders were at the new Pine Creek fill station. So it was about an hour and 6 minute turnaround time to get back and forth to it. When we got there, we found 2 dugouts that were inaccessible for current equipment that you have. And we were able to turn that turnaround time from an hour and 6 minutes down to 12 minutes, which completely changed the way they attacked the fire. They allowed them to literally dump straight from the water truck straight into the pit. The firefighters also had water that they never had access to before. And it made it safer for them because they didn't have to worry about running out of water as the trucks were traveling back and forth. It also made it safer for the water tender operators, as they told us when they enter and exit Highway 63 with that heavy load, trying to get up to speed with all those tractor trailers coming up and down against them. It's a scary little road at the best of times, not carrying water like that. So it made a big impact on the safety of that operation, and we made a huge impact on that fire and helped contain it. That also happened about this time of year too. It was crazy having put out fires in the winter. The next one that I've put up for you, this is a couple of pages. You can read it at your leisure. This one happened just south of the Hendy. It required 15 different fire crews and about 60 firefighters. They also applied Alberta Health Services and the RCMP to evacuate the homes. You can't see it in the image. There's one right between the houses, but there's multiple standing waters that were on the property in the grassy field that the fire was happening, but existing equipment didn't allow them to access it. And luckily they too had favorable winds. In our area, which directions is the prevailing wind? Which way does the wind normally blow? Sort of northwest from the northwest, right? Yeah, you're right. And imagine our downtown core if we had that typical northwest winds when we had that Union fire. Which way would that fire would have blown? We got lucky that that wind was coming from the south. As part of our testing and to create exposure to our disruptive technology and methodologies, we've been working with BC Wildfire for years. First as a fee for service to show them what our system can do. And then after 2 years of testing, they purchased their first 2 systems. And we're excited to say that we're in the process of delivering their next 2 systems right now. They're in there getting polished up as we go. In spring of 2022, BC had a beaver dam that was threatening to spill over its banks again. Last time this happened, there was a $1.6 million worth of damage that was created from this beaver dam. So BC deployed a 12-person crew with 6 of their standard pumps, and it took 11 days of continuous operation, and the end result wasn't favorable as they didn't really change the water level at all. In April of 2023, same dam, same flood risk. However, this time they had the Tridents, and they provide 2 Trident systems with a 4-man crew each. They were able to reduce the water level to below 12 inches in under 15 hours of operation. So we went from a $1.6 million worth of damage to a $150,000 failure to about a $30,000 success story with the right equipment. In the handouts, I provided you with a pamphlet. Right on the front underneath the writing, it says, it says saving a community. That was Ron French. He was the director of fire services for BC Wildfire Services, and he sent us that picture. So we're quite proud of BC Wildfire and them being happy and repeat customers of ours. After years of testing, our main goal was to put these into communities and First Nation communities that have limited portable water. Wabasca, Big Stone, Cree First Nations received their first system this year, and we were blown away by all the stuff that they have done with it this first year. They've given us examples of the usages that we didn't even think of. Like they diverted water when they had a water main break. They were actually able to use the system to divert that water. And they've also set up fee for services with the oil companies up there for all their little ponds and their holding wells that they have. So they're utilizing it outside of fire in some situations. They also set up a fee for services with Alberta WUI, and that's the Wildland Urban Interface. And their first deployment that lasted 11 days, they were able to save and protect the hamlet of Chip Lakes from the fire that went through there just this year. It would take just 4 more of those 11-day deployments for them to pay off that system. So as a fee for service, there's some value in having a piece of equipment. And I know you guys utilize in some situations with insurance and stuff, you have equipment that you can bill back. They now feel ready to make decisions on what's important to them and what they deem as valuable. BC Wildlife Services is calling the Trident solution the new industry standard. Big Stone Cree First Nation, they purchased their system to match this standard. And with this system, they've established this day rate based on a 12-hour day, ensuring that they're ready to deploy as needed. Importantly, the same rate can be applied to using the system during major events like wildfires, floods, and other emergencies where protecting a property at risk. In my original letter to you guys, I was speaking a little bit about an 80-20 cost sharing, and this was a mentality that we came up with that may be something that helped with the financial side. This 80-20 cost sharing model, the initial financial burden is minimized for each department. Public Works would bear the majority of the costs, as the system would heavily be utilized for routine maintenance and seasonal infrastructure work. The fire department, with the smaller contribution, gains a critical resource for fire suppression. Now, you guys already have funds allocated to wildfires, road repairs, stormwater management, erosion, and flooding. The Trident pumping solution will maximize these investments and also help prevent damage during extreme weather events and fires. This collaborative funding approach ensures the maximum value for each dollar spent. This last case study in your handout is called a peat moss fire. This was the job that happened during the Jackfish Lake fire. So talk a little bit about the Jackfish Lake. It was declared May 3rd, and then July 12th, it was put out. Just to point out a couple of things, that helicopters down there was 2 helicopters in that. That's $100,000 a day for those 2 helicopters. $7 million if they used it throughout the whole 70-day fire. In this example, if we did what we did for Alberta Forestry, because during this, we spoke a little bit with Athabasca County about the one system that we had in the office at the time. We even went out to the site a couple of times, and we ended up actually putting a system out, the only system we had, to Alberta Forestry, and we ended up going to Entwistle. And we had a peat moss fire in Entwistle at the same time we had a peat moss fire here. So and then the example that's spelled out into your handouts and is up on the board as well. We talk about how with the Trident solution, we were able to, with a 2-man crew, 1 hoe and operator, we were able in 3 days to put out that whole fire. And it allowed them to be able to access the fire with all the water they needed. So the whole operator was a god. He was amazing at it. But in this example that we did with Alberta Forestry, The One Trident solution was able to put that out, and then they reutilized this to go over and we put out, we provide hand lines and water lines at another location where we actually had gentlemen from South Africa working the line, and we were refilling ponds that they had drained during the fire so that the farmers were able to utilize their ponds again afterwards and refilled them up. If the Trident solution was owned by the county and was deployed at the time the Jackfish Lake fire was detected, we are confident that the fire would have been extinguished in about the same amount of time, drastically reducing the cost to just 1 day of helicopter usage. In conclusion, I wanted to provide you with 3 numbers to consider. You have a budget of about $150,000 for wildfire. You have $350,000 in a new line item that you've got budgeted for on-call for emergency services. So that must be something new that you guys are just working on. And I'm sure there was a lot of deliberations on how much and how that was going to work. The last number is 34 days. If you had this system, 34 days of fee for service would pay for the system, would pay for that $500,000 that you guys got allocated. This is the total number of days needed to cover both those operating costs. Now, I'm not here to introduce you or to sell you on a product that's coming from the UK or United States or even out of Red Deer. We patented this and we received awards at the Geneva Patent Convention. We built it. We live here. It's promoted here. And we have this ever-growing presence in Alberta, Canada. We also have patents across in a few other states. Athabasca County could be the world headquarters of this innovative solution, and I hope you guys see the value in having one here and promoting locally. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you very much for your presentation and information. That's very informative. I appreciate that. Does anybody have any questions for our presenter? I see Councillor Hall's hand is up. Go ahead, please.
Rick, I just wanted to thank you for coming to talk to us about this. You know, we're located, of course, on the margins of the boreal forest. And I think it's something that we can really celebrate as a region, that this kind of innovative technology and just is being produced locally, thought up here. And it's been exciting for me to watch the growth and of your firm over time. You know, when wildfire is ever present for us, I think it's a real opportunity for us to consider as a region how we act as leaders in wildfire fighting. And thanks for sharing this with us.
Thank you.
Does any other councillor have a question, comment? Councillor Mintz?
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. I've been around them before. Do you have any for lease? Like let's say all of a sudden we get a big wildland fire in Athabasca County here. Could we come to you and lease one or anything like that, or rent one or something like that?
So we are right now, as we're wrapping up, we are an on-demand inventory. There is an option to do leasing. We have a company that's working with us that has talked. We're dealing with another group that is talking about leasing with a buyback, you know, so that you could have the updated technology every 5 years or something along that line. We've had requests. My goal, selfishly, would be to have one there, because when you guys have an emergency event called, you basically can throw whatever you can of that equipment at that fire, and then you got to do the whole dance to get it paid back. So I would love to have one available. So if you guys had another one of those fires, you could say, hey, we want one, and then you figure out how to pay for it at the time, and then you have it in your fleet. We were able in the past to be available to help, especially with the Union Fire. It was shocking that we actually had 2 sitting here at the time because of what was going on. It was just a lull in BC wildfires time. We've also at the RMA, I talked to the CEO in Thorhild, and he's like, well, you know, maybe there's a mutual aid that we can do with you. And Our business model has shifted. We did fee for service because of how disruptive our technology is. We've basically taken an 8,000 pound pump and made it 570 pounds. People don't believe that. So we needed to go out and do fee for service. We needed to show them what we have. Now that the demand is up, we're back into manufacturing and selling. So to have it there when you need it as a rental, we're trying. We want to grow our rental fleet. We want to have that available. But the methodology that I think needs to be considered is utilizing that as what you own and then mutual aid it out, just like you guys did with that ladder truck in Lac La Biche. You know, that came. If that wind would have shifted direction and we had a larger fire without those pumps, I don't know where the water level would have ended up being if we didn't have that access. And they did try with their fire trucks. They did try to get the water and it didn't work.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, there is work in place and opportunities in place, but I would love to sit down with you guys, not just in the matter of trying to put one into your guys' hands, but for me and my business development as a local business, how do I work closer with municipalities and counties so that I can answer that question better moving forward when others are asking it?
Okay, thank you.
Awesome. Is there anybody else? Last call. All right. Thanks again for being here. We
Thank
really
you.
appreciate the information you provided, and it is an extremely innovative system that you have put together there. So that's amazing and helping so many across Canada by the sounds of it. So that's fantastic. So
Thank you
thank you
very
very
much.
much for that. We will be discussing it again further along in our agenda. It'll come back for us to have discussion. You're welcome to stay in the gallery, or you can even check it out on YouTube as we are live streaming, and it will be recorded.
Perfect.
Your
Thank you very
choice.
much. I'll let
Thank
you be.
Thank you so much for being here. Oh, pardon me. I see Counselor Hall has a question.
No, actually, on a point of privilege, I was wondering if we could declare a 7 to 10 minute recess.
Well, we had quite a bit of disruption here this morning. If you may, like you say, if you need time to be away, please feel free, but we should be carrying on as we do have quite a full agenda yet today. Counselor Capitania?
Sorry, not to be disruptive either, but it is 11 and you gave us 1 4-minute break. And that's not enough time to even go to the bathroom. Sorry. We have like 7
Yep.
minutes, please.
Thanks, Rick.
Yeah, thank you for being here. Yeah.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah. This will be probably the last one since we've just had a recess right half an
It
hour
was
ago.
4 minutes.
Yeah, that's where we're at. So if you'd like to take this time to use the washroom, please feel free.
So we can't go to the bathroom for fear of missing something in the meeting. Is that clear?
Mm. We still have quorum.
Wow.
All right, I believe our next item up is 5.1, page 39 of your agenda. The Committee of the Whole recommendation, Development Enforcement Resolution CW 24178. The recommendation is that council defer discussion of development enforcement to the level of service discussion in 2025. Is there anybody who would like?
I'll move the recommended motion.
Thank you. Councillor Anderson would like to move, pardon me, the recommended motion that council defer discussion of development enforcement to the level of service discussion in 2025. Is there any discussion? Councillor Chamzik.
I was just wondering, do we have a timeline for the level of service discussion to come forward? You know, I know that we're moving into a busy time with audits and year end and all that fun stuff. Would April may be sufficient for administrative time to prepare for that discussion?
Madam Chair, I have no idea. The first step is it's included as a project in the 2025 budget. So we'll see if that survives later today, and then we'll know. That's the first step.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
All righty, Councillor Cromwell.
development enforcement, I think, is a very important item for our county and for our ratepayers and moving forward. I do not support the recommendation to put it on the back burner for an undetermined period of time. I would like to amend that to bring that discussion back to the next council meeting after we've talked more about budget.
We're going to be discussing budget continually for a little while, so do you have maybe a better timeline on what that would be for your amendment?
I'm thinking here because I really want to make sure that, you know, I think we should be factoring some level of development enforcement into the upcoming budget. But you know, we can always bring it back at a later date. I can leave it for
Like,
now.
so we'll take the amendment off the table. Okay. All righty. Is there any further discussion? All right, so the motion, I just saw a camera come on. The motion is that council defer discussion of development enforcement to the level of service discussion in 2025. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I believe there are no opposed. So that would be 8-0. Thank you. 5.2, page 41. Of your agenda is the Committee of the Whole Recommendation Resolution CW 24-179. The recommendation is that council direct administration to prepare a report for a future meeting regarding the ability to rescind a local improvement levy such as Collinton water supply. Is there a motion? Councillor Mins?
I'll move the recommended motion.
Okay. Is there discussion? Councillor Anderson?
Just to clarify, is the intent for administration to seek legal advice as part of this report?
CAO?
To be clear, Madam Chair, we would require legal advice. That's why the motion is important.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Hall?
I have, I guess, two comments. One is I'm wondering if the CAO or anyone in admin can provide us a guess on how much this is going to cost. And from my perspective, we should vote in opposition to this. It is a colossal waste of time. We don't even know if the people who are subject to paying this levy, who would have agreed to it at the beginning, are unhappy with it right now. And yet we're looking, it's a solution in search of a problem. So I'm concerned about the cost. And I think it's a colossal waste of time when we have other more important priorities for our admin to focus on.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion?
Sorry, there was a question to admin is there any guess on what this is going to cost?
Madam Chair, no, I don't. Kind of preliminary. I don't think it's that complicated a question for our council to give us a response back on, but until I've asked, I don't know the answer. So I'm sorry. It's really the legal fees are the only cost, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? Okay, as far as being a colossal waste of time, I have to disagree. In my personal opinion, we are canceling out a levy through lower water rates. So it doesn't really, in my opinion and in my belief, make sense to continue. It looks to me like with administration's reports, we would have that information whether or not it's possible to rescind bylaw 1-2007. So if there's no further conversation, we will go to the recommended motion, which is that council direct administration to prepare a report for a future meeting regarding the ability to rescind a local improvement levy such as Collinton water supply. All those in favor? Any opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
And that is carried 6-2.
I think it was 6-3.
Three.
If there's 9.
Pardon
people.
me, I did not see.
Counting.
I did, excuse me. I would ask that respect remain in this room, please and thank you. I did not see the person join Zoom as this jumping in and out becomes very difficult. Go ahead, please, Councillor Kapitaniak.
I would ask that respect goes both way, and we are allowed to be on Zoom, so it is up to the chair to make sure that they see everyone and count everyone's vote.
Yes, thank you. And we're all human, as you know, that
It's not respectful.
excuse me. Thank you for your comments. If we can please go on now to 5.3. Committee of the Whole Recommendation Level of Service Drainage Resolution CW 24-176, which is on page 43 of your agenda. The recommendation in the report is that Council direct administration to bring forward a discussion report regarding level of service policy for drainage work, as well as a budget. Is there any discussion, CAO, for your report, or, okay? Is there, as recommended? So we have Councillor Cromwell has put the motion forward as recommended in the report. Is there any discussion? Councillor Hall.
I'm wondering if we can get some clarity for the table, what we intend to do with the report, and what do we think this is going to cost us in terms of the administration time. Again, I have a real concern that we make a list of our council priorities, and then we continue to divert administrative time with these ad hoc one-off items that come up that don't get properly prioritized with our main master list of critical things. And so how long will this take to admin, and what are we going to do with it? Because we've seen in the past where we've asked for reports and then really gotten them and don't know what to do with them once we've received them.
Okay, well, Camille, I see your hand up, or Councillor Pollock, I apologize, I'm reading your name on the screen. If you would like to go ahead, CAO, with the question that, the questions that Councillor Hall has asked, please.
Yeah, that's a matter for council to determine if it's the best use of time. It's our job to put together advice to council. Yeah, it's going to take us probably half a day to put together an RFD on what this would look like if you actually wanted to take on a drainage level of service and come back with a policy and bylaw in the next year. That doesn't mean that's just the project outline. That's not the project. So, and a budget, and I've been through this before with another county. This county probably has more drainage licenses than that county in its name. It's going to be a big project. Just fair warning, when the report comes back, it'll be big.
Thank you very much. Councillor Wallach?
Thank you. Yeah, just for clarification, is this for all drainages or just the registered drainages?
Madam Chair, I guess we would need direction from council at that time. I would certainly start with priorities that I know that the county is responsible for. So that's, and unfortunately today we don't have a policy to guide us into what it is. We have no policy. So we would start with looking at the impact on our infrastructure first, because we're responsible for that. And then anything that's licensed in our name. Anything that's not licensed in our name, but for some reason we continue to do, it would probably be looked at, but we'd be looking for direction from council. Why are we doing that? If it's not our current responsibility, but I don't know. We will bring back something and tell you the magnitude of what it could be. And if you want to, that's not even setting the terms of reference. If you want to set the terms of reference after that, there's still plenty of time.
Thank you very much. Councillor Anderson?
Thank you. This seems like a really important topic to take the time and get right and have a good, thorough discussion about what level of service we want to set. And we just deferred a discussion on development enforcement, which is also a very important and thorough topic, to the level of service discussion. And I would be in favor of deferring this to that same level of service discussion. I think that we need to have that bigger whole picture kind of discussion versus trying to change administration's priorities right now to try and get this done ahead of that discussion. So I guess I'm opposed to the current motion that's on the floor, just because I think it should be also treated the same and deferred to that larger level of service discussion.
And I wonder, is it possible or if council wishes to maybe have a friendly amendment to the motion to be presented at the level of discussion meeting in 2025?
I'd make that a formal amendment if you'd like.
A formal amendment? Okay. All right. Is there any further discussion before we consider the amendment? Councillor Mins.
Yeah, I agree. Honestly, with looking at the drainages and what drainages we should be looking at, we should just stay with the licensed ones, just due to the fact that how many there are out there. And if we start dealing with little drainages that go across farmland and through muskegs and stuff like that, it'll be a never ending project because there's many of them out there. So staying with the licensed drainages would be, with our name on it, would be way better.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other discussion? And I know I'm in favor of the amendment. I do believe that this is definitely something that we should be looking at. We're currently sitting only at 51,000, I believe, for the 2025 budget. And considering the issues that are coming up with drainage and the amount of time that is required, it is important that we make sure that we absolutely provide this service and get it right. So on the amendment, if ever there's no further discussion, I don't see. The amendment is to be presented at the level of service discussion 2025. We're ready for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. And I see there are no opposed. So that would be 9-0 on the amendment. On the original motion as amended, that council direct administration to bring forward a discussion report regarding level of service policy for drainage work, as well as a budget to be presented at the level of service discussion 2025. If there is no further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. And I see there's no opposed. So that would be 9-0 and has carried. Thank you. We're going to 5.4 was deleted off the agenda. So if we could move to 5.5. And that is 2025 budget 4849, but it is a request for decision, page 48. There are 3 recommendations here. This is a continuation of discussions that took place on was November 19th, I believe it was, special meeting. That forum was lost. So we will have those conversations. Is there a motion that anybody would like to start with?
Recommended motion to direct administration to bring forward a report to council to discuss future committee of the whole meeting regarding EFT security and implementation. To direct administration to transfer 2023 water rates, one water surplus of 156,627 from unrestricted reserves to capital reserves, water equipment and lines. To direct administration to bring forward the utility report to council at an up and coming committee of the whole meeting detailing options to allow for lower water rates.
Okay, so as recommended. All right. If we could begin on discussion, please, Councillor.
I'd like to request to split the question, please.
Absolutely. In all 3 different. I'm sorry, that was each one
Yeah, just to vote on the 3
separate.
recommended motions separately, please.
Okay. So if we maybe could start then with discussion on recommendation number 1, which was to direct administration to bring forward a report to council for discussion at a future committee of the whole meeting regarding EFT security and implementation, EFT meaning electronic funds transfer. Councillor Wallach, I see your hand.
Thank you. This motion seems very operational, and I feel like the administration is doing a good job of becoming more efficient and upgrading their system. So I don't know if we need to do this. I feel like we should just leave this in administration's hands. And if they want to do it, they do it.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other further discussion? I'm not seeing any hands on Zoom. The reason for the recommendation and the request for decision, yes, it would be operational. However, it would also, I'm assuming, come to council for implementation if there's costs involved and those types of things. And considering our current postal strike that I think we're in 1 month already, these are types of things that would be, in my personal opinion, something that would be very beneficial and actually probably would save time and efficiency in the future. So I realize it's a huge undertaking, totally understand that. I realize that this isn't something that's going to happen overnight or even in the next couple of months, but to be working towards it would be amazing in my opinion. Councillor Cromwell, and I see your hand is up, Councillor Hall, but we'll start with Councillor Cromwell, please.
Thank you. You know, it's a great point. We've often talked in this room about how we can streamline operations, how we can make things easier for administration, for ratepayers, for the people who live far out in the community. And if we can get something as simple as the EFT up and running properly, that would be a win-win for everybody. I don't see why we wouldn't talk about it.
Thank you. Councillor Hall?
While I agree that there's value in this type of technology, I also believe that it is an administrative thing, and this is another diversion that council is another diversion from our priorities that council is imposing on administration. So I would rather leave it in their capable hands to bring this to us as a solution when they feel they have both the internal capacity and the timing is appropriate. We're once again adding new priorities to their list, and I think we need to be careful about protecting the time of administration and allowing them to focus on the really critical big picture priorities that are important to council. This is operational, and they'll get to it when the timing is right and they have capacity.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. And I guess a part of the recommendation is the discussion at a future committee of the whole, which gives administration the latitude in which to, when they feel comfortable, that they are ready to bring that forward. It's built into the recommendation. Is there any further discussion? All righty. So on the motion to direct administration to bring forward a report to council for discussion at a future committee of the whole meeting regarding EFT security and implementation, all those in favor? All those opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
So the count is 6-3. That motion passes. On the second recommendation, to direct administration to transfer the 2023 water surplus of $156,627 from unrestricted reserves to capital reserves, water equipment and lines. Is there a motion for that? As recommended, Councillor Minns. Is there any discussion? No? Well, we'll go straight to the vote on that motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I see that was all ayes and no opposed, 9-0. Thank you. And the item 3, to direct administration to bring forward a utility report to council at an upcoming committee of the whole meeting detailing options to allow for lower rates. Is there any discussion? All right, we'll go to that vote.
Sorry, I couldn't
Sorry.
get, it's hard to work that little hand raising thing. I think, again, this is something would be better served if we provided administration more direction through just a general council discussion at committee of the whole, where we talk about a plan and a strategy and how this can fit into whether we want to use water as a tool for economic growth, or whether we want to use it as a tool to just make life more affordable and the region more attractive. But I think rather than giving administration a very broad, come up with ideas, we would serve the purpose better by providing some boundaries for them so that they know what we're trying to accomplish with the strategy, because that way their time is again more effectively spent.
And thank you, and I will ask the CAO, is this motion detailed enough to bring forward options to allow for lower water rates? Do you feel you need more information on what council is looking for?
Yeah, Madam Chair, that's kind of a big question. Lower rates, you know, we could bring back a report showing it's 1% lower. Is that what council wanted the report to say? Like, yeah, what are you thinking? And my understanding was the current bylaw was adopted on the user paid principal cost recovery. So we'd have to look at, depending on what your target is, there's really only way to reduce those rates, and that is to subsidize the utility, like almost all small to medium municipalities in Alberta. It's just a matter of how big you want the subsidy to be. That's all.
Thank you.
This is actually not that complicated, but would, you know, lower could be 1% or it could be 90%. Lower is a big range.
Lower is a big range, and as I mentioned, and thank you for that. The options that would be provided, I would hope, would get us to what we were talking about in our special meeting, and that was considering the region, we're the highest in our region in these rates. So I would hope that one of those options would get us into where we're lower or in comparison to our neighbors. And I think we had that conversation. We discussed as well, bringing back the average cubes used by residential and commercial customers to basically understand the minimums, which would lower rates. We discussed the lowering of the reserve contributions, which again would lower the rates. We discussed subsidizing water supply across Athabasca County. We've had several discussions with regards to what council and councillors and council are bringing forward and hoping to see. So I'm hoping that with the information in the prior discussions, that the report that comes forward would be guided by those discussions. Councillor Wallach?
Thanks. I would like to see a cost comparison to municipalities similar to ours, like with a similar water system. Our neighbors are not similar to us, so I would like to see administration find that municipalities that run like ours with a commission and have their own water treatment plant and their costs and their subsidies.
So we have another councillor opinion on how to guide that utility report and the options provided. Is there any other weigh in? Councillor Hall.
I think there is maybe still a little bit of lack of clarity, given that everybody has, different ideas on where that goes. So I would propose that we table this until after council has had a discussion at committee of the whole to narrow down, to provide specific direction. Table until council's had a discussion at committee of the whole to provide specific direction on how we would like to see the rates lowered.
So that would be a postpone to the next committee of the whole meeting?
Table.
Table is different. Table it today. Postpone would actually bring you to a committee of the whole. I will just go to our procedures. To postpone is not debatable, of course. Simple majority is required. And again, table is for today. So would you like it to come back to a committee of the whole? I would suggest postpone.
Well, I guess I'll leave that to you, because if you're referring to the procedural bylaw, we have postponed indefinitely and table. So I'll leave the choice of that wording to you.
Thank you. And
The
being
intent is to kick it forward so that we can get some clarity as a group and provide a narrow set of tasks for administration to make the best use of their valuable time.
okay. So I would propose that we use postpone to the upcoming committee of the whole meeting in January. Is that where we're at, folks?
I didn't use a time frame. I will leave it to administration to create the space to to put that on one that they believe is appropriate, that they have the capacity to handle.
All right, and it is a non-debatable, non-debatable postpone. And I believe you had mentioned upcoming committee of the whole meeting. So we did not specify a date, so upcoming committee of the whole meeting, postpone, simple majority is required. All those in favor
Aye.
Aye.
and opposed? One. Oh, I'm sorry, you were opposed as well? You were in favor. Thank you. So it is 8-1 to postpone. All righty. See, it is just a few minutes after 11, so if we could please recess at this point before we go on to bylaws, we will return at 11:30. Thank you very much. We'll reconvene. We are at page on our agenda, item 6.1, page 50 of your agenda. It is the bylaw 001-2025 borrowing bylaw, and it will be for the 2025 to 2027 financial years. If we are ready to go, the recommendation is that first reading be given to bylaw 001-2025 being the borrowing bylaw. Thank you. Councillor Mins has provided the recommendation that we do first reading, bylaw 001-2025, the borrowing bylaw. Is there any discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, that is currently 8-0. The second recommendation that a second reading be given to bylaw 001-2025 being the borrowing bylaw. That is with Councillor Chamzik has offered the recommendation or the motion or the second reading, pardon me, the second reading be given to bylaw 001-2025. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, and no opposed. That is 9-0. Is there unanimous consent to proceed to third reading of bylaw 001-2025? I'm not hearing opposition. Sorry, it is a
I'll make the
motion.
motion for
You make the
unanimous
motion,
consent.
thank you. Councillor Cromwell. Consideration be given to proceed to third reading of bylaw 001-2025 being the borrowing bylaw. No discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
And opposed? We
Aye.
have 2 opposed, so that's 7-2.
I was 4.
Oh, yes, yep, 7-2, yep. Correct, we had 2 opposed. Therefore, we will not go on to third reading. Item 6.2, which is on page 56 of your agenda. This is the election bylaw 023-2024. Is there any discussion or further report or anything you'd like to bring forward from administration?
Madam Chair and members of council, I just want to point out that there are portions or elements within the bylaw that require us to have it passed by December 31st. And also that with this bylaw, we would be repealing a very old bylaw that we found that was still active in 1971. So that's a little bit of a housekeeping.
Okay, so should this all pass, do we add that to repeal that bylaw?
It's within the bylaw already.
It's when, okay, I appreciate that. Thank you so very much. All right, to first reading. Councillor, I looked this way, so Councillor Chamzik would like to give first reading to bylaw 023-2024, the election bylaw. Any discussion? Councillor Hall.
I have a little bit of a concern that the timing of this seems like some significant changes and we haven't had a lot of opportunity to discuss it or even 72 hours or since Friday when the agenda came out to reflect on it. But one of the things I noticed under 6.6.3, I think the email address will not be functional if we're going to write that into the bylaw. And I also have questions reading part 6.9, maybe for admin. So we've said that we won't share or that no candidate or anyone can make copies of the register, but I'm wondering why that's even necessary if earlier in the bylaw we've said we won't even show it to them. So there's that. And then as it relates to bylaw 22-021, I'm curious why we wouldn't just write that in under section 7.3 and if clean up this whole get to a place where we have a single bylaw that covers the election data and not have to refer back out to another bylaw. So consolidate them together. And I think the other note I had was questions around, do we have any idea how much this will cost? And does administration have any advice for us on how we we're gathering a lot of sensitive information, I guess, and I'm worried about how we protect that information in terms of data leaks and hacks. I don't like the level of detail we're looking to collect.
I'm assuming you would like to ask administration for those items that you would like clarified?
That, well, or general discussion, I guess, how everybody else feels, but or administration might, given probably has the best knowledge, maybe they're the most qualified to respond.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I'll work backwards from some of your questions until I forget the question. So as with respect to privacy and security, unfortunately, the province enacted new laws that require us to do everything in this bylaw. So we're not going beyond what the province is asking us to do. We're required to do it. So the province drove us towards this, and it was recently enacted, not that long ago. For your question about the urgency, yes, it was. This is the first time this issue has been formally placed on council's plate. We did bring the impacts of Bill 20 and the Local Authorities Election Act to Committee of the Whole in recent past. And council was advised that the province gave royal assent to the act, which brought it into play. All municipalities are faced with doing this. On the December agendas of many municipalities is a similar election bylaw, which we based ours off of. We noted the spelling mistake in the email. That is correct. As for cost, I believed we included an additional 50,000 in this year's budget, which is on later in the agenda due to the changes in the act. So, and that's really pretty modest for us. Compared to some of the other municipalities that have had to give up their tabulator machines, which if you're a big municipality, it's going to cost them a lot of money and delay to hand count every ballot. For us, that's not a big deal. So it didn't affect our budget that much. We were already doing it. We didn't have electronic tabulators. So there are big impacts, and this is not driven by administration. This is 100% driven by changes to legislation.
Thank you very much. Does that satisfy your questions, Councillor Hall?
I would like to, see an amendment that includes 2201 baked right into the document. I think it just gives us a chance to clean this up a little bit.
Is that an, I guess, is there an amendment that is there a motion that we would create for that? However, in doing so, and for this to come back, I believe we would need a special meeting to do that, if I'm not mistaken.
Madam Chair, if you didn't want to adopt as presented today or as amended with a minor typo correction, we would either have to have a special meeting before year end, or you could adopt today. And if you said, but bring us back a new bylaw in January that incorporates both bylaws together, perhaps that's a way to move forward if that's council's pleasure. But nomination day opens on January 2nd.
Thank you.
Our first day back with the office open.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Councillor Mins.
I think we've been bouncing this around about the timelines and how we overextend ourselves into administration and stuff like this. Why don't we just adopt this bylaw with the wording that's in there, and we can bring it back later or whatever, but just let's just adopt this and move on. Like honestly, we're having to do this because the provincial government is telling us to do this. And administration has done a very good job of putting this all together so we can actually be
Complained.
yeah, so it can be completed on time. Like let's move on here. Let's get the readings done and be done with it.
Thank you. And I agree. I want to first extend a a huge thank you to administration. As Councillor Hall mentioned previous, there are a lot of items on your plate. We're in budget time, and now we're in audit time, we're year end, we're doing all of these things. And administration is very much appreciated for bringing this forward. As CAO mentioned, this is a direction of the province. We really don't have any choice. I would also like to see all 3 readings go. If you would like to put a motion on the table, Councillor Hall, to bring it back in January for those changes, I think that that would be an excellent compromise and would keep us moving forward. Does that sound fair?
I'm sorry, are you asking me?
Yes, does that sound fair?
That seems reasonable. Do we want to, between first and second readings, propose that motion?
Okay. Well, we'll start with, I believe it was Councillor Chamzik, to give first reading to bylaw 023-2024 election bylaw. All those in favor? Oh, I'm sorry, pardon me. I'd missed you, Councillor Anderson.
Thank you. When I read through this, and I appreciate how in-depth this is, and it took a bit to read through it and try to comprehend. Item 6.3.6, that the register may include whether the person is a public school or separate school resident. Kind of questioning if we are required to include that, or if that was just on the recommendations.
If I may, it does say pursuant to section 495 of the Act. The permanent electors register may contain only the following information for each person included in the permanent electors register. So I believe it's part of the Act, but if you wouldn't mind clarifying.
Yes, Madam Chair, it is part of the Act.
Thank you. And line 6.9, I'm not comfortable including that in the bylaw. I just think it opens it up in contradiction to item 6.7, where it says we will not share the register or the information contained. I think that then saying that the people that you said you weren't going to share with it can't photograph it or copy it, kind of blurs those lines. And I just don't think that's clear enough to establish that we are committed to protecting that information on behalf of the people we're collecting it for, and will not be sharing it.
Could I ask, in conjunction to that, is there a circumstance where those individuals would actually see the register? Like during voting perhaps, or something like that?
No, Madam Chair, the likelihood is not. But again, we're just aligning ourselves to the Act.
So this, just to be clear, 6.9 is part of the Act. Yes, it is.
And just to complicate the answer a little bit, we just signed a data sharing agreement with Elections Alberta, which is a new process that we have to do. Was signed yesterday, so we have to share that list with them and help them build the list, basically. And so do we 100% understand the privacy of that list? Not 100%. That actually gets shared with Elections Alberta. And if they have other laws that allow them to share that list, I'm a little unclear on that, since we were required to kind of race ahead and share or sign an agreement with Elections Alberta.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Hall.
Does this then seem like another downloading of the government dumping onto us something they should be doing? And because we don't get paid by them for this, but they're forcing us to collect data for them at our expense.
Right.
It's just another example I want to highlight for all of us, that of more downloading of the provincial government onto the municipalities without compensation.
That would be correct. We are being
Madam
downloaded.
Chair, there are many municipalities that I talked to at RMA convention that saw the entire exercise as a whole bunch of downloading, and to quote you from earlier in the meeting, a lot of people describe this as a solution in search of a bunch of problems for most municipalities. We don't have election issues in most small and medium municipalities. I don't even know about them in large municipalities. So nobody's thrilled about this. We didn't need extra work, so, but we're doing it and we'll do our best.
Thank you very much. Is there any further discussion before we go to first reading? All right, Councillor Chamzik would like to give first reading to bylaw 023 2024 election bylaw. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 I believe that's 8 opposed. 8 and 1. There was a motion, pardon me. Oh, Councillor Hall.
I say, Madam Chair, as promised, I would be willing to make a motion to direct administration to bring back to the first council meeting in January a revised version of this bylaw that consolidates bylaw 22-201 into this document.
Okay, so procedurally, and just before we, I tried to write that down as quick as I could, but before we go to that motion, being that first reading did not pass, well, I thought you were opposed. Pardon me. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. All right. So the motion itself, direct administration to bring a revised copy,
A revised version
the revised version
to
Or the-
consolidate bylaw 22-201
2022-01
into section 7
into section 7,
for the first meeting in January.
first meeting in January. All right, did everybody catch that? Hopefully we don't need it reread. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That's
Aye.
4 ayes, all those opposed? That would be 5 opposed, motion fails. Ready, so we're going to go to second reading to bylaw 023 2024 election bylaw. Councillor Gerlach,
Motion to go to second reading.
thank you. Motion to move second reading to bylaw 023-2024 election bylaws on the floor. All those in, is there any, we don't need to have any further discussion, I'm assuming. All those in favor?
Aye.
I believe that was 6 and opposed
Aye.
and 3 opposed.
Nay, rather.
Got it. 6 and 3. Do we have unanimous consent? That motion, who would like to make? Councillor Minns would like to make the motion for unanimous consent to proceed to third and final reading of bylaw 023 2024. All those in favor? I believe that's 5. Any opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Alrighty, that's 4.
Nay.
5 and 4, so we will be recalling a special meeting as soon as possible to have this carried forward as the requirement is by the province. Thank you. Alrighty, so we're moving on to new business, which is 7.1, page 67 of your agenda. 7.1 is Community Rail Advocacy Alliance membership. Is there a motion? Councillor Anderson would
I'll
like
move the
to
recommended motion.
have the recommended motion that council commits to fund the membership for the Community Rail Advocacy Alliance in 2025. Is there any discussion? All right, we'll move to the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, I believe that's 9, no opposed. 9 and 0, thank you. Item 7.2, page 69 of your agenda. This is the tax recovery reserve bids. The recommendation is that council sets the reserve bid for Northeast 357117 west of the Fourth at 1,085,000 and adopts the recommended terms and conditions of sale as shown in Schedule A. Recommended motion is through Councillor Mins. The motion is recommended. Is there any discussion? Councillor Anderson.
Thank you. Through the chair to administration, I'm just kind of wondering how the recommended reserve bid was calculated, if it's based on an appraisal or the assessment or kind of what was used for a reference for that number?
CAO.
Madam Chair, we tendered for a commercial appraisal and selected a winning bid, and a commercial appraisal was performed for that property.
Thank you. Follow.
Let's follow up. I guess if council was to go into closed session or later in the meeting, could we see that appraisal document before deciding on this? $1 million seems like a real hefty price tag, and being that we've previously said that we regretted potentially reserve bids that we had set, I'd just kind of like to see that and be comfortable with that prior to setting that.
So I guess the process would be the request to table table this until after closed.
If administration states that they could provide us with a copy enclosed, then I would make a motion to table.
Okay.
Until later in the meeting when we're in closed session.
We could provide the appraisal.
All right. Is that what you would like to do then, is table until after closed session?
Please,
All right. So that is non-debatable,
table during closed session,
table during closed session.
please.
Okay. So to table this item to take place during closed session. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 I believe that's 9, no opposed. 9 and 0. So I'm just gonna make a note so that I remember. Alrighty. Item number 7.3, page 73 of your agenda is an amendment to the 2024 budget. The recommendation is that council approve payment for 2024 lobbyist services from surplus economic development budget in 2024 and direct the remaining surplus 2024 economic development budget to the operating reserve to fund the lobbyist in 2025. Is there a motion? Councillor Mins would like to do the recommended motion. Is there any discussion? Councillor Hall?
I'm
I just saw
turning
the
my
mute.
microphone on so that I could vote.
Okay, thank you. If there's no discussion, we'll go to that vote. All those in favor of the recommendation?
Aye.
Aye.
I believe that's 8. Any opposed? 8 and 1. All righty. We're moving on to page 75 of your agenda, which is item 7.4, the 2025 operating and capital budgets and the 2025 to 2029 operating and capital plans. We did receive an amendment this morning to our budget summary. The only item that was added was the add back depreciation net enhancements. I think it was just a difference of $6,200 that needed to just be corrected there. And I believe, did everybody get a copy of that? If not, we'll get that to you. Just the one item. All right. First of all, thank you. This has been a long process and I understand how difficult this is and how taxing it is on everyone. So we really, I personally, and I'm quite sure council really appreciates all your work and that has gone into this. And we are at the stage where this is not a budget that is currently written in stone, as I know we're still working through it. We're still working on it. It is completely amendable. And we will continue to work on this in the early parts of the new year. So if there is any discussion today that anybody would like to have, please go ahead. Otherwise, you will be given more opportunity to have conversation about this budget. And if I'm not mistaken, do we have to have a budget passed by December 31st as well? Thank you very much. So that's also another requirement that we're looking towards. So with in mind, again, it's not written in stone. It is amendable and you will have more opportunity. We will be having further discussion for sure in the new year as well. So is there any discussion that anybody would like to have or a recommended motion they'd like to bring forward? Councillor Anderson.
The updated budget summary page that we were provided with this morning indicates that there would be a reserve withdrawal of 244,223 to cover the operating costs for the year. And I know that that can change once the new updated assessments come in and we talk mill rates and whatnot, but I'm just not comfortable budgeting or planning to withdraw from reserves to cover operating. Like, I think we have such great capital funding requirements here. And it just does not seem responsible to withdraw from reserves to cover that. So I'd like to kind of look at it and see where we could find 244 to balance out that budget without needing with reserve withdrawals for operating purposes.
Okay, thank you. And that is something we can further discuss in the new year, for sure. Unless you have any recommendations that you'd like to offer on where that would come from.
No, I have no problem. In the past, we've passed interim budgets that are like 50% of the current year's budget. I'm not willing to vote in favor of passing something that's predicting a deficit like this. So I would like to take the
Understood.
time and relook at it before passing it and maybe pass something else just to meet that requirement.
And I think as we've had in prior discussions as well, with regards to doing a 50% interim, it really ties hands of our administration to go forward in work that they need to do, not only for cost saving measures for tenders and whatnot, but efficiencies as well. So I understand what you are asking to do. Is that there isn't a motion? Is there a motion that someone would like to put forward? Mins, Councilor Mins?
I'll do the recommended motion. The council adopts the 2025 operating capital budget and operating and capital plans as presented, with the understanding that we will be probably moving this budget around a bit in the next couple of months. Once we get our tax rate bylaw in place and all this other stuff, this budget is going to move. So I am totally agreeing that we shouldn't be taking reserves out to cover operating, but it's, you know, there's also recreational. What are we at? A negative $2 million in recreation and stuff like that. Like, there's lots to look at here, right? You know, that we can move around. So I think we were all in the thought of moving this budget forward to have more consideration in the later months. But at least we've moved the budget forward and got it in place before the 31st.
Okay, so the recommended motion is that council adopts the 2025 operating and capital budgets and 2025-2029 operating and capital plans as presented. That motion Council Mins has made. Sorry, yeah, and just, and I agree, we have a plenty of opportunity to continue to work with this budget. I personally would like to see some more, I would like to see road construction come back. You know, I think that that's something else that's extremely important and we still need to have these conversations. We're going to be, of course, looking at assessments. We're going to be looking at all of that information that'll be coming forward, you know, to see where we're at. So I definitely in favor of the motion.
And as follow-up, if the intention is to bring this back and have further discussions in January, then a 50% budget shouldn't be that big of a deal. It's if we're not going to talk about it again till May, that would really become an issue. And if the intention is to bring it back in January, then 50% really wouldn't, they're not signing a lot of contracts in the first 2 weeks of January, right?
I couldn't answer that one. I'm not sure what administration has waiting in the wings there, but I certainly wouldn't want to tie their hands. Councillor Hall.
I would, so I'm in agreement with some of the comments that we've got to withdraw from reserves for operating is like borrowing to buy groceries, and we need to figure that out. We went from a few short weeks ago having a $700,000 surplus or reserve contribution to $250,000 with reserve withdrawal. And I agree, and I've heard from a number of people at the table that it seems like there's some general agreement this does need more work. So I would propose an amendment to approve at the operating budget at 50% and the capital budget at 100%. And this ensures that it puts it back on our agenda as a priority. And a partial approval does not unreasonably tie administrative hands, and in fact is probably fair, because if you approve it 100%, it creates a situation where they may start making commitments that we then later have to unwind because we've made other adjustments. I'm also a bit concerned, and again, because of that deficit, we're also talking about the potential to subsidize water, and that's not included in here. I would really, now we may choose to do something different. We may decide instead to tighten our belt and benefit all ratepayers through a 0 or no tax rate increase, which I think might be a practical alternative to aspire to in place of a water subsidy. But I have felt through this process, there has been no restraint. We have just added and not made any difficult cuts or any tightening of the belt. So I'm wondering if it would be reasonable to propose through either a separate motion or otherwise that admin provide us ideas for a 4 to 5% reduction in spending, which would bring us back into a positive and create some space for the potential to address either a low tax rate increase or water subsidy or a little bit of both. So, but the amendment is to approve the operating at 50% and the capital budget at 100%.
Thank you. I believe some of that information will be coming back that you were looking for. Administration has already been directed to bring that back. Is there any discussion on the amendment that anyone else would like to weigh in? All right. Go ahead, Councillor Vince.
Most of the time when budgets get cut back and everything, it's usually on capital. It's not usually on operating and stuff like that. So if you're worried about committing on the operating and then are not committing on the operating but committing on the capital, that's kind of, to me, is kind of a shot in the dark, because all of a sudden if we say, okay, we're going to go 100% capital and we go out and buy everything that we put in there, we can't cut back on that. So,
well, the problem is in the operating budget, not in the capital budget.
yeah, but it's all tied together in the long end of it. It's tied together. If we need more money for operating, that means we got to cut back possibly on capital somewhere. And it'd be great to be able to save 10-15% on operating, but that usually comes through capital. When I had any dealings with this budget, it was like you give a wish list and be prepared that wish list does not come totally true. So that's my point of view. Is I guess I wouldn't feel comfortable on passing 100% on the capital. There's some big items in that capital purchase.
And I think, the point is that more discussions will be taking place. I mean, we've had opportunities to have these conversations and had to end those that meeting. And so, we're sitting here now, having a further conversation, which of course is definitely a great thing to have the debate. I'm not in agreement with the amendment. I will be voting opposed to that. Just because I know that administration is also of the understanding that we are bringing this back for further discussion. So I don't think administration is just going to inadvertently take off and say this is written in stone. They know that. And so if there's no further discussion, or if there's any other concerns or anything like that, I'm not seeing any, so I guess we will.
Can I add one other comment that relates to that, Chair? And that really is, if more discussions are taking place, then there's no real risk to proposing a partial budget, and it ensures that this comes back to the table. The other piece that I wanted to bring up, and I had a note here on page 83, we have listed primary industries as oil, gas, and agriculture, and I'm not sure how we missed forestry, which is pretty significant to the economy of our region. So just as in that budget document, if that gets published anywhere, that's a correction that we probably need to look at.
Thank you. All righty, so if we can vote on the amendment, is everybody ready? The amendment to approve the operating budget at 50% and the capital at 100%. All those in favor? Oh,
Aye.
Aye.
Can we split that question?
Ooh.
okay, sure. We will split the amendment. All those in favor to approve the operating at 50%.
Aye.
Aye.
I believe that's 3. All those opposed? I believe that's 5, and if I'm not mistaken, we've lost Councillor Wallach. So that would be 5 and 3. That amendment has failed. The second amendment is to approve the capital at 100%. All those in favor?
You don't need an amendment on that.
I'm sorry?
You don't really need an amendment on that because that's baked into the main motion. The only reason that they were together is
I agree.
There's no amendment there to make at this point.
I agree. Just wasn't sure if I should say it or not before someone jumped down my throat there. All right, so we're done with the amendments. They failed. We're moving on to the main motion that council adopts the 2025 operating and capital budgets and 2025-2029 operating and capital plans as presented. All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All those opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
That would be 3. So it is 5 and 3. The motion has passed. I think it's time to break for lunch. We will recess until I'm not even sure, 1:40 or 12:40, pardon me.
I have an additional motion that I'd like to make as regards to 7.4 when we get back.
Okay, thank you.
You're good.
Awesome. Thank you very much. We would like to reconvene our December 10th meeting. I believe we are now at 8.1 in our agenda. which
Madam
is on-
Chair, I had a motion.
Oh,
related to
pardon me.
7.4.
Thank you. Yes, you had an additional motion that you would like to put through. I just read that note.
Thank you.
Please go ahead.
I mean, the preamble to that is to say we're regularly at our table talking about how our ratepayers and residents in the region are strapped. We see that data in the news that people are struggling all over the country with the escalating costs. And so I think for me, I would like to make a motion that administration be directed to provide to the next council meeting ideas for a 4 to 5% reduction in operational spending. And then council can talk about it and look, is there anything in there that we can do or would be willing to tighten our belt on? I think that it's important for us to set the example and work to tighten our belt. And I think it's irresponsible for us to not take some action and to pass a budget that is, with a deficit projected. So the motion is then for admin to provide ideas for a 4 to 5% reduction in operational spending by the next council meeting. Or how about by the end of January?
Okay, so if I understand correctly, it is for a direct administration to provide a report to obtain a 4 to 5% reduction in operational spending?
Sorry, yes, and that shouldn't limit them to just hitting 4 to 5 as an option. If there's 6% found, council can go through and select and maybe choose some that amount to a 2% reduction but I think we have a capable team at the county that if challenged can rise to that task.
Okay, thank you. I understand exactly where you're coming from and I feel that administration has been doing an excellent job in coming forward with a budget and considering efficiencies and where we can be. But for sure, we'll put that motion on the table. Is there any discussion before we do that? Okay, pretty quiet bunch. Yep, go ahead. Okay, there's a couple discussions. Councillor Gerlach.
Kind of think you do that at the beginning of the process as opposed to the end of the process.
Thank you. Councillor Mins.
I'm thinking the same way, like I can understand trying to find efficiencies and stuff like that with what we're doing, but we need to actually get the right costs first before we can say that they're not efficient. So coming up with a plan sounds like to me like it's a service issue to me, like we're saying cut back somewhere, but we don't. Where do we cut back when we don't even know what the actual cost is going to be? And we decide that cost through the budget. And then we say, you know what? We're not going to pass this full budget right now because we need to find efficiencies. So that's when council can, or not council, administration can come back at the same time we're trying to pass a budget that, you know what? It's going to cost us this much, but through efficiencies, we've actually saved on this. So I don't know. It's like tasking administration with another project. At the same time, they're doing a project of the budget. So can that not all be part and parcel of the budget of trying to find efficiencies to be able to pass the budget? Because if they bring the budget right now with a ask of 300,000, let's say from reserves for operating, it ain't going to pass. We're going to actually
just
tell them,
did.
no, we passed pretty well an interim budget. Okay, we passed an interim budget with the idea of we're going to actually talk about it again. And this is what we're going to do is we're going to discuss the budget again once we get our because we have to discuss the taxation bylaw. And we're not, administration knows we're not going to pass a budget at pulling reserves out for operating. There's going to be cuts somewhere. Trust me, there'll be cuts. So this this whole thing of doing another project to figure out efficiencies can be done at the same time as a budget is brought forward. That's my point of view. I don't think we need another project for administration to do. They know that they need to bring a zero balanced budget at least. And if that means by efficiently cutting somewhere, let's do it. But that's my point of view. I don't think we need to add another project on. We keep saying we're overtaxing administration. Let's let them come back with a budget that shows the efficiencies. And then we'll win. It's a win-win. They're doing it at the same time. Right? That's my point of view.
Thank you so much. I agree. We're going to be continuing budget discussions, and in those budget discussions, what you're asking for is basically going to be we're going to be having that conversation. So I'm quite sure administration is already been looking at different items and different things and working towards where we are trying to get. So I'm not in favor of adding a full-on out report. I'm very much in favor of allowing these budget discussions to continue. Councillor Cromwell.
Thank you. One of those rare days that I agree with Councillor Hull. I think that there are definitely ways we can find to reduce what the budget obligations are of the county and efficiencies to be made. But I agree with the Deputy Reeve in that I'm very confident that that will work out once we continue on in this process. And because of that trust, I'm willing to hold off voting in favor of this right now and let the process play through. But I think that is a very valid point that you plan for the worst, you hope for the best, and there are ways that we can balance that out a little bit more. But I definitely think we have to give it the opportunity to play out here a little bit, get our tax rate bylaw done, get a few things figured out before we go and add a monumental task on our already overburned administration.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? All right, so.
Can I have the final word before we vote, please?
Sure.
I would, just because we've heard a couple of things. We've heard it said that, we should be doing this at the beginning. But remember, at the beginning, we had a $700,000+ surplus. And so it like many things, we all don't catch things on the first time it comes by us. We've now gone from $700,000 positive to a negative 244,000 and change. Budget is the single most important decision council makes. And we have not told administration to bring back a zero budget. In fact, we just did, even if you call it an interim, we just acknowledged and said, it's okay to have this negative. What I've heard is that we expect them to read our minds. And I think they deserve the clarity of hearing us say, we would like to see this get back to zero, a net zero or a small positive, and to have that clarity of direction. I'm not asking for a gigantic report. I'm asking for them to come with a list of ideas on how we can make this right. And if, as we've heard, it's already going to happen, then there's actually no risk in passing the motion because they're already doing it anyway, and it won't be a big deal. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything, I think that was the final word, if I'm not mistaken. So we will look at the motion to direct administration to provide a report with options of with option to create a 4 to 5% reduction in operational spending. Is that accurate, Councillor Hall? Does that suffice? All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That's 3 opposed. And that's 5. So that's 5 and 3, motion fails. All righty,
I look forward to seeing these results anyway.
sounds good. And the next item up for bid here, 8.1. Let's look at page 112 of your agenda. Trying to get there. And this was the RCMP presentations. Is there, Councillor Chamzik would like to?
I would like to approve what a great information.
Okay, so to receive the RCMP quarterly presentation for information. Is there any discussion? All right, all those in favor?
I,
Aye.
All right, I believe there's no opposed. 8-0. 8.2, we have on page 113 of your agenda, which was the Trident pump delegation. Is there any, Counselor Anderson?
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion to direct administration to bring us back a recommendation related to the proposal from Trident Pump. I just think we should hear our admin team's opinion on that matter before we make a decision.
Okay, so it's recommendation for administration to bring back, sorry, I'm trying to write it down, to bring back.
To
a-
direct administration
Yep,
to bring back a recommendation related to the proposal from Trident Pump.
related to the proposal. Okay. Did everybody catch that? Yes. Is there any discussion? Alrighty, so on that motion, and I'm not gonna try and reread it. I think everybody knows what it says. All those in favor?
Aye.
I believe that was all ayes, no opposed. All right, so that passes 8-0. Thank you. Item 8.3, page 114 of your agenda, we have calendars. Who would like to begin? Counselor Chamzik.
For December 13th, the Northern Lights meeting is canceled. There will be a rural women's meeting. For January, the 13th is FCSS and Village Library. The 16th will be Town Library. And that is all I have. Thank you.
May I ask the time of the rural women's and the times of the other meetings?
9:30.
Okay,
Town is 6 PM and Boyle is 7.
6 PM, Boyle is 7 PM on the 13th, and FCSS
9:30 or 10 o'clock, sorry.
10 AM. Alrighty. Is there anybody else who has Counselor Cromwell and then Counselor Mins?
Thank you. January 15th, Community Futures.
Okay. And
At-
the time? Sorry,
I believe it's at 10 AM.
10 AM, okay.
And then on the 27th of January at 10:30, healthcare recruitment and retention.
And that's January healthcare, is that at 10?
10:30.
10:30. Thank you. Counselor Mins?
Just looking here on January 20th to the 22nd is the ASB conference in Edmonton, and with few counselors going probably to that conference from here. Wondering if we could move the committee of the whole meeting to possibly January 28th. Along with the MPC meeting,
Right after MPC?
right after MPC.
Right
yeah.
after MPC. All right, is that, everybody's good with that? Is there any objection? Doesn't appear to be any objection, so that would be moving the 21st Cal meeting, committee of the whole, I guess that's what I should probably use, committee of the whole meeting to January 28th. Shall we say right after MPC, or do we have to give it a time, 9:45? Immediate following, thank you. All righty,
in order to respect administration's workload, can we set the agenda still effective the 21st so that, because having two big meetings like that in the same week, I mean, maybe we should just ask administration, is it reasonable to try to have them both ready? And
Madam Chair, for most of us, that actually gives us an additional week. So I'm actually happier with that.
okay, then I withdraw that comment.
okay, Right.
There's no Greater North on the 23rd.
oh, it's canceled the December 23rd.
It's not canceled. It was never scheduled that date.
Oh, okay, so that was just an error, okay? Counselor Anderson?
There's a Boyle Intermunicipal Committee meeting on December 19th.
I'm sorry, no, remember,
Boyle Intermunicipal Committee
Yeah.
meeting, December 19th.
December 19th, okay. And we will be announcing, of course, a special meeting coming up. We just have to sort that out on how that will work. So, oh, what was time of your intermunicipal meeting? Do you know?
9:30?
9:30? Okay. Awesome. Does anybody else? Counselor Gerlach?
Just a Blue Heron on January 13th in the afternoon.
Is it at 1?
I think it's 2:30.
2:30, okay. And is that everybody? Is that all, Counselor Gerlach? Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. Okay, I think that covers it. Is there a motion to accept the calendars as amended? Counselor Mins? All those in, I'm sure there's no further discussion, but all those in favor
Aye.
and opposed? Alrighty, 8-0. Thank you. We move to 8.5, which is donations, page 116, or pardon me, 118. I personally like to thank CEO Beck, these donations that are coming forward, they're excellent. People are very happy to see them. So thank you so much for looking after all of that. Is there a motion? Counselor Chamzek, to receive as receive the report for information. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and no opposed, so that's 8-0. Committee reports, being that unless somebody has an action item or recommendation from the reports, I will extend my gratitude to all those who have provided the reports. Would anybody like to discuss them? I'm sure everybody's had a chance to read them. They're excellent reports. Thank you very much. I know I personally like hearing what's going on in these committees and there's a lot of good things happening. So thank you, everybody, for doing that. So we do not need a motion. We now can move to closed session.
Motion to enter closed.
Thank you very much, Counselor Cromwell. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and no opposed. We're done. Thank you so much for joining us. We will be back after we come out of closed. We're ready to go. All right, we're back in open session. And we have a few motions that came from in closed session. So
As a
12.1,
point of order. Who made the motion to leave closed and
Oh.
when did we vote?
thank you. A motion to leave close. Counselor Cromwell made that motion.
made
All
that
in
motion.
favor?
Aye.
8-0, thank you. So we came out of close now at 2:09. In the closed session, we have 12.1. We have a motion. Counselor Cromwell would like to make the motion that council appoint Ken Stashek to the ASB board for a 3-year term. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. No opposed. It'd be 8-0. Thank you. In closed session, item 12.3, Counselor Anderson would like to make the motion to defer in closed item 12.
Missed the FCSS board appointment.
Oh, thank you for that. Appreciate it. Skipped right on by. Counselor Capitani, we'll back up, please, to 12.1. Counselor Capitaniak would like to make the motion that council appoint Louise Jewell to the FCSS board for a 3-year term. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And no opposed? That would be 8-0. Thank you. And we'll move back to 12.3. Counselor Anderson to make the motion to defer enclosed item 12.3 to a January council meeting. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. No opposed. That would be 8-0. And 12.4, Counselor Gerlach moves to direct administration to create an intermunicipal committee terms of reference with the town of Athabasca. There's no further discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. No opposed, so that would be 8-0. The last item of the day is 7.2, the tax recovery bid, reserve bid. Counselor Mins would like to make the motion that council sets the reserve bid for Northeast 357117 west of the Fourth at $1,085,000 and adopts the recommended terms and conditions of sale as shown in Schedule A. All those in favor?
Aye.
And any opposed?
Nay.
That would be 7-1. Motion passes. And if there is no further business, we will adjourn today's meeting at 2:11.